All right, to everyone joining now, we're just waiting a few moments before we get going here, just so that everyone can have a chance to join. All right, we're just giving a few minutes for those of you who have just joined, just for additional people to hop on, and then we'll get going here in a couple of moments. All right, everyone. My name is Josh Nicollet. I'm with IR Labs, and I'm here today with the CEO of Ecologist, René Gauthier, to give you guys a bit of an overview of what Ecologist has been up to as of late, and to discuss our current financing round. Ecologist is an incredibly interesting company. I'm sure all of you have been following it closely, and we're really excited today to sort of get into a good Q&A with everyone who's interested in investing and who has been investing in the past, and to really sort of open the floor. I'll just cover a few housekeeping items before we get going. We're going to start off today's session by giving a quick presentation about what Ecologist has been up to lately. There's been some significant developments with the company that are really exciting, and René's really excited to share those with you. And once we're done that brief presentation, we'll get into Q&A. We'll enable the Q&A function with Zoom webinars here, so you'll be able to ask those questions as you like, and then I'll read them out to René, and he'll answer from Ecologist's perspective. So yeah, we're really excited to have everyone on today, and just bear with me one moment. I'll share a screen and we'll get going into the presentation. All right, so as mentioned, we're going to talk today about Ecologist and everything that the company has been up to in recent times, as well as some great developments that the business is working towards. Before we get into the presentation today, I just wanted to remind everyone that we will discuss forward-looking information. So, ideas of where we want the company to go, and goals and targets for the future. Of course, this is what we hope will come true and our plans, but it's not guaranteed. So just a friendly reminder that plans change, and but this is where we are going. So without further ado, I'm really happy to introduce you to René, CEO of Ecologist, here on the call. And over to you, René.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining this morning. So we'll dive in here. It's just going to be like a real brief little presentation. We wanted to save as much time as possible for the Q&A. So unlike, I should also say too, there's existing investors on this call, and then there's also people that are interested in investing. So some of this might be, not new to you. So bear with us as we go through this. But we like to say that unlike most clothing brands, we actually make clothing. So this is an image of our manufacturer to consumer location in Victoria, BC. So our guests get a behind the scenes look of our manufacturing and distribution processes here. Really, fulfilling our customers' need for transparency and connection to the products that they're purchasing, and who are the people actually making them. We're in a really large industry. So there's numbers ranging from $2.5 to $3.3 trillion on our industry. It employs 1 in 6 people on the planet. And we really view it as the last legacy industry to be disrupted. We also believe it to be a broken and, for the most part, unsustainable industry. So clothing production is responsible for nearly 10% of global gas emissions, roughly 1/5 of all industrial water pollution, and a main contributor to microplastics. The industry makes about 100 billion garments annually. That's 13 pieces for every person. Sadly, 3/5 of that is thrown away within a year. So needless to say, it's time for a new model. And so introducing the world's cleanest supply chain, we do things differently here at Ecologist. We're a manufacturer to consumer model. We remove most traditional steps from the supply chain, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by up to 90%. When building new products, we use 100% natural biodegradable materials, so no plastic fibers, no poly, nylon, acrylic, so forth. We build fewer better, really pride ourselves in the quality of our products and are able to back those with lifetime repairs and second life programs. And our recent acquisition is the market leader in upcycling clothing. I'd say with the collapse of the global supply chain model and pressure from customers around transparency and sustainability, we're getting more and more other brands reaching out to us to work with us, which has allowed us to realize a new product in the form of helping other brands to change how they do things. So we're ready to start. Josh, again, you're pretty far ahead of me in the slides. One second. Yeah, I'll say next. We're ready to start allowing others to make use of our supply chain and plan to scale it to meet the current and future demand. So next slide. Thanks, Josh. So we have 2 factories of our own now and 2 M2C brands using this capacity currently. So the first is the Ecologist factory, which specializes in making outerwear from natural fibers. Next slide. And the second comes from an acknowledgement that from a sustainability standpoint, we can't compete with used clothing, and also an acknowledgement that the resale market is set to surpass even fast fashion by 2029. Next slide. So we recently acquired Frankie, the market leader in what's known as rework. Frankie upcycles end-of-life clothing to create new items. Next slide. So on the left here, this is a look of the raw materials that we start with, and on the right is some of the streetwear they've created from the trash. So to date, they've upcycled over 500,000 pounds of clothing. With 100 billion garments made every year, we're excited to scale this up dramatically. Next slide. So about 30% of clothing made each year goes unsold. So that's 30 billion unsold garments every single year. We've recently been handling the obsolete inventory from some large brands and helping them realize value from clothing they would normally either landfill or incinerate. So we've done work with the likes of Adidas, Nike, Urban Outfitters, etc. There's a little bit of traction over the past few years. So we started Ecologist in 2019. Our trailing 12-month revenue is now 4.2 mil. Ecologist has an NPS of 83. 98% of our sales are done at full retail price on the Ecologist brand side of things. Frankie has a social following of 330,000, and thanks to such a low raw material cost, a really great gross margin of 70%. So next slide. Sorry, I forgot to say next, and that's the traction slide. And I'm on to the next one already. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so in 1965, 95% of clothing sold in North America was made here. And that number is only 2% now. So we look to play a really big role in this pendulum swinging back. There's two phases to our growth plans over the next 10 years. Phase one is a buy and build strategy. So we'll be acquiring existing manufacturers in North America, elevating them to our standards and growing their capacity. So this will really allow us to share our supply chain with other brands. Phase two, we will acquire large brands to make use of our manufacturing capacity and really show other players in the industry that, you know, transformation is really possible. Next slide. Yeah, so short presentation. Thank you for listening. That's the email for our investor relations team if you'd like to reach out. And now we can open it up for some Q&A.
Thank you, René, for walking us through the slides there. Yeah, so as mentioned, it was a really great brief overview of the company. The Frankie acquisition is extremely interesting, and it really helps ecologists expand their business model to capture more of the sustainable clothing transition. So it's extremely valuable to see that in practice, and you know, to really sort of charge forward in pioneering in this space. And yeah, obviously Frankie's a great contributor to that. So yeah, I think we'll get into Q&A here now. I'll just, yeah, as people wish, feel free to ask your questions in the chat. We'll start off with the first that's come through. Yeah, so René, can you tell us a little bit more about Ecologist and what inspired you to go into the sustainable fashion business?
Yeah, sure. What inspired it? I mean, I've been in the clothing industry for 20 years now. I started a brand while in university called Sitka. We mostly followed the, you know, what's become the standard way of making clothing with that brand. We had offices in Guangzhou, China. We produced in our goods in China, in India, in Indonesia, so forth, and you know, really just had a firsthand view of just kind of how nasty our industry is. Eventually, got to a place where could no longer continue to turn the blind eye to it. So you know, that was really the seed. Is kind of many years of seeing how just awful our industry is, and yeah, wanting to, you know, make sure we align our values of our company and, you know, the team members to how we're actually you know, building our products and yeah, putting them out there into the world.
No, that's excellent, René. Thanks so much for sharing. It's great to see that it's been a lifelong passion of yours and that you've been working away at it since university days. I'm just going to quickly reshare the screen. We've had a question come through about the traction slides. So maybe we could speak to that one a little bit more, and yeah, just highlight some more of those metrics.
Yeah, I forgot to say next on the slides.
No worries. Yeah, absolutely. So I see that, yeah, combined trailing 12-month revenue for Ecologist and Frankie is sitting at 4.2 million. So Ecologist has, you know, with the acquisition made of Frankie, it's added to the business significantly. Yeah, and I guess René, maybe do you want to speak a little bit to the differences between Ecologist and Frankie from a margin perspective, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, the big difference, I mean, both you know, in relation to other players in our industry have really great gross margins, but, you know, the big difference on Frankie's side of things is that the raw materials come in at such a low cost. You know, we're buying, you know, clothing from rag houses that no longer even have value at a vintage level, and then reworking those into new pieces. When we do work for other brands and help them rework some of their excess inventory. In those scenarios, we're getting the raw materials for zero. So that's what really helps the gross margin on that side of things. Both brands are really committed to not overproducing anything. That's speaks to how we're able to achieve such great kind of full price sell through and not having to just discount our goods. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's really valuable too that you're not only doing things right in terms of producing new clothes from sustainable natural materials and in a in a sustainable way, but also preventing those garments that are already produced and destined for the landfill to be turned into something useful again. That's excellent, Renee. Thank you. Yeah, I'll move on to our next question, which is, one of the attendees said that they particularly like the phrase raising them to our level. And has the merge with Frankie been able to preserve Ecologyst's core values?
I guess it's hard to clarify the question here, but I'll try to answer what David's asking there best I can. But we're relatively new into this, having Frankie under the ecologist umbrella, so to speak. We acquired it, or the close happened August 19th. So we're still sort of working through how we integrate the two companies together. But as part of our due diligence on them, which was about a 6 to 8 month process, depending on where you thought we started. But a lot of that was ensuring that we were values aligned, not just like at a high level, like let's do some good out there in our industry and in the world. I think that's clear. They are definitely aligned with us on that side, but also to ensure that the team, the culture, and like the values amongst team members were similar enough that we thought our businesses could coexist, and we could see things going not just for a few years, but 100+ years together. So, that was certainly a really important part of our due diligence process with them. Yeah.
Excellent, Renee. Thanks so much for shedding some light on the merge of the two businesses. Next up, I just had a question here that traditional fashion has been known to leave a significant carbon footprint and degrades the environment. So obviously, Ecologist and Frankie both contribute to the solution here, but what do you see as the true solution to getting the world off of fast fashion?
It's not one thing. There's no silver bullet on this, but it does need to be transformed. I think where I'm hopeful is that a lot of the issues have come around in the last 50, 60 years here, and even when you mention fast fashion, like that's even like a term that's become part of our vocabulary probably in the last 10 years, right? So that that in of itself gives me a lot of hope that we can move back to some kind of previous ways of doing things that are more sustainable. I think that's kind of like some of the low hanging fruit in front of us there. It wasn't until 1950s where we started making clothing out of plastic, right? And that's now making up over 60% of the fibers in new clothing are the likes of nylon, polyester, acrylic, so forth. So yeah, I can really picture how quickly it can go back the other way as well, but it's gonna take some consumer demand, it's going to take some, government policies. Which we are seeing some shifts in that regard. I think Europe's sort of leading the way in that area, and will take some innovation. And I think Frankie's a good example of that. Of like, hey, maybe we don't need to make more new fabric. Perhaps there's enough already created. Just looking at ways to be more circular with what's already created out there.
Excellent. Thank you, Renee, for giving that description and for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll add one more too. I think that the culture shift is happening. I think that there is the start of some shame around purchasing in particular ways, or purchasing from fast fashion companies, and I can certainly see that going the way of say littering, or I feel like the government did a really good job here of shaming smokers, and we've seen a lot less people smoking now because of that work. So I sort of see shame playing a pretty big role in this as well, in the whole culture shift that's required.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely becoming more top of mind that people are thinking about where they buy their goods in general, and clothing such a huge piece of that. So it's great to see that culture shift unwind. Another question here that came in regarding Frankie from Brent. Will Frankie and Ecologist share the same retail outlets as you grow?
No, not likely. They're pretty unique brands. There may be some collaborations between the two, but Ecologist targets, I would say, sustainable families, and like a pretty large age demographic within that, and is more, how would I put it? I think like casual or wear, whereas Frankie is quite focused on Gen Z customers, and really in the streetwear space. So I think it's possible that we could go in together on leasing a space, but that we would divide it into and make two separate spaces for it, just to not confuse the market too much. Yeah,
that's great insight, Renee, as well, just to show the distinction between the two, and the different markets and consumers that they play to. Excellent. Next question here that's come up is, after acquiring more brands and manufacturers, how do you ensure that they all align with your value at operating levels? So sort of synergies and things like that.
Oh, wow. Big question. Yeah, I mean, like a big part of that happens in the due diligence process. Like I mentioned that with Frankie, it probably went a little slower than they would have wanted, but we literally interviewed almost every single team member there to really get a pulse on the culture, and to that's such an important part of every business, and just to ensure that it is a fit for us. The manufacturers that we're looking at in North America, because we have been building goods here, whether they realize it or not, we've been vetting them as a customer of theirs over several years, and just been navigating the landscape here to figure out who are the quality players in our industry. And I mentioned bringing them up to our standards. Some of these, it won't take that much to get them there. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee. Next up here from Kyle is, do you see much in the way of headwinds for ecologists as we head into a likely recession or economic downturn? As a high price point retailer, do you think ecologists will be particularly sensitive to the downturn?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't like to talk too much about the downturn because I feel like it makes it more real. But so hopefully we're not in this very long. But also realistic. I think that in these times, you see the mushy middle has issues. So the more expensive brands seem to still do all right, and then the companies that are really inexpensive also seem to do all right. So we on the ecologist front, we're kind of at the beginning levels of luxury as far as price points go. So at least so far we haven't felt the impact of it. I think what's really great about Frankie, due to the really low raw materials costs, like they are able to keep the price really quite reasonable for what it is. So yeah, hopeful there. I think as far as like tailwinds goes, there are some huge, kind of macro shifts that are happening that I believe are, blowing pretty strongly at our back right now. Both in what the customer is demanding for more transparency, for more local production, things being made sustainably, but they want to dig deep as well. They want to make sure that that's not just greenwashing. They need to know that that's authentic and real. So I believe that's a strong tailwind for us at the moment. And then the global supply chain. I mean, COVID really helped to expose just the house of cards that is, and brands right now are scrambling to figure out how and how they can onshore their goods, and it's just become more and more expensive to build overseas. So they're looking, and actually that's become the opportunity for us because they've seen that we've been able to figure that out, and hence they're reaching out to us for help in that area. There's other sort of geopolitical things happening right now. Tensions are pretty high with the biggest clothing manufacturing country in the world right now, between them and the US. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously the price of oil is no secret. It's been going up aggressively over the last little bit here, and there's some people predicting that to just continue, which will really impact the price of plastic fibers. Yeah, lots of tailwinds, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, Renee. It's great to sort of highlight the unique positioning of Frankie and Ecologist in the market, in respect to sensitivity in downturns, and yeah, as well, just to show how you're definitely on the right side of things in terms of transitioning your supply chain towards the sustainability, versus the legacy clothing industry.
Mhm.
Yeah, the last thing is someone just asked if there is a current financing taking place, and what the future trajectory of the company looks like from a financing perspective. I'll just quickly jump in there and say that yes, there is currently a financing taking place. We're looking to raise up to $10 million at 20 cents a share. So definitely feel free to reach out to our investor relations email. We'll cover that again at the end of the webinar, and to discuss further. And yeah, Renee, did you want to speak a little bit to sort of future plans for the company, sort of beyond this financing round?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess maybe I'll say a bit of what we plan on using that for. The bulk of it's going towards our acquisition strategy. There will be some amounts to growing our existing companies, Ecologist and Frankie, but the growth there, at least what we're projecting, is fairly modest or sustainable for those two businesses. But the more aggressive growth for us is on the acquisition side of manufacturers. And so we'll be using a combination of equity and debt to close those acquisitions. We have plans over the next 3 to 5 years to acquire at least 100 mil rev per year in manufacturing capacity. So although we're having this round right now, we do anticipate further rounds of financing required to close some of these acquisitions. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, René. Yeah, great to hear that you're focusing on what's next for building out this supply chain and taking more of the market. Another question that came in from Carolina was that in the Q4 update that you sent out to shareholders, there was a bullet point asking about reaching out to companies that purchase clothing for employees and clients to offer them a cleaner solution. Could you speak a little bit more about that initiative?
Yeah, so I mean, we get various companies coming to us, and we've had some significant orders over the past few months in this area. So we've decided to open that up and put a little more effort into that as a revenue channel for us. So we recently did 500 jackets for a company out of Vancouver. We're working on 1,300 wool coats for a company in Quebec right now. These are companies that have a sustainability mandate themselves, and thus are looking for just, I guess, better quality swag for their team members. So yeah, very much open to growing this channel for us. We just call it bulk sales. I think nothing's not a sexy name, but kind of is what it is. Yeah. What's been nice is that these these customers aren't looking to resell the products, so we aren't having to give them that large of a discount on it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, René. I think it's really great. A lot of large companies around the country and around the world often purchase, branded jackets and things like that from legacy clothing producers that use, polyesters and plastic-based fibers. So it's really great that you're sort of leading the way in positioning Ecologist as the best option for those corporate orders from a sustainability perspective to offer good, high-quality, natural products. Yeah, the next question that's come through here is, when considering future acquisitions and in alignment with Ecologist, are you looking to continue to scale Ecologist's MTC model? And yeah, they're just wondering, are you seeing considerable success with the MTC model since launching it? And that question was from Jonathan.
Yes, and yes. Yeah, we absolutely plan to continue to scale, like I was mentioning, our existing businesses, and that includes the M2C model. Absolutely. However, yeah, scaling up manufacturing in North America just on our own is a bit slow. I think sort of like time is of the essence, given like sort of the climate crisis we're in and so forth. And so that's part of why we feel like it's a quicker strategy to actually acquire versus simply just growing our own business. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks so much, René. Another question that came in here back to Frankie regarding synergies around the acquisition. Are you planning on reducing duplicate roles or using it as an opportunity to change the headcount in any way, or are you or are the companies sort of operating still together but with their existing teams?
Yeah, there's there's some sharing of resources, but there's been no reduction in headcount because we're growing both of those businesses. But there's mostly it's been Frankie taking advantage of some of the stuff that ecologyst and some of the team members that ecologyst already has in place. Yeah, I would say predominantly, at least so far, it's been on the finance team. So just some accounting, bookkeeping help on that front. And then HR as well, just helping with like getting some of the policies and and stuff like that in place, and supporting in like some of the hiring and job descriptions, and all that sort of behind the scenes type stuff that needs to be in place for them as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee, for answering that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question here that's come through is in reference to your to the ecologist business. You have some brick and mortar locations in Whistler and a new location in Victoria. Can you touch on the future of ecologist's retail footprint, and if you're planning to open more stores, more M2C locations, et cetera?
Yeah, we do have plans for that. But we aren't like the type of company that's gonna roll out multiple locations like within a given city. This isn't like a Lululemon rollout at all. But we do want to have a handful within North America. I don't know if you can hear that noise, but it seems somebody is like drilling behind me. I am at the factory right now, so sometimes there's some interesting noises here. But yeah, we're targeting some key locations throughout North America for future ecologists, and also at the moment Frankie has no physical presence, so we're also looking at providing them some physical locations as well. Ideally, we can pair these along with our manufacturing, so we'll look to make that possible depending on where exactly which acquisitions go through. But we will have some what we call community stores where there isn't a manufacturing component within it as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Renee, for discussing that a little bit more in detail and for talking about the rollout. It's good to know that ecologist is methodical about opening stores and is not moving in unnecessary ways in that regard. Mm-hmm. This question that's come in is following your tailwinds question, but are there any other macroeconomic factors that really support the transition towards a slow fashion future that ecologist identifies and sees as additional tailwinds?
Wow, I feel like I listed off quite a few there already. But yeah, what else is happening in that regard? I mean, there is some government policy that is starting to shift things as well. Certainly seeing that first in Europe, but there's been talks around I forget the acronym here, but basically where extended, what's that called? Extended responsibility, where the maker of the products have to take responsibility for it beyond its use by the customer. So think like how you pay like 5 cents for that beer when you buy it, and then there's the responsibility of the maker of that beer to recycle that bottle, as example. So there's some talks around that in terms of clothing, just because there's so much just going into the landfills. I think it goes like food waste, construction waste, and clothing waste is what's making up the majority of what's in our landfills. But 70 pounds per person in North America thrown away each year. So, I think some of those shifts, are coming. You're seeing it in Europe already, and if that trickles down into North America here, it's really gonna, push brands to change pretty quick. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee, for shedding a little bit more light down that road. There's a lot of tailwinds, obviously, that ecologist has, and the market is demanding better. So it's good to see that the change is underway. Another question that came in here from David is regarding the B Corp certification process, and will becoming a B Corp, help the business or be a distraction?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mention this, but we're pretty far along in the process of becoming a B Corp. I suppose there's been moments, given the amount of due diligence they do in various areas, where we've the thought has entered our minds of, is this worth it or not? But I would say for the most part, it's only sort of challenged us to be better as a company, and look at even areas that we hadn't considered before. So I think on a whole, it's it's positive for us. But yeah, we're excited to finally be certified and be able to announce that to everybody out there. Yeah.
Thanks, Renee, for answering that, and thanks, David, for the question. Yeah, definitely great to see that ecologist is seeking that validity, just to prove out the model.
I think that there's become quite the part of why they're so slow on the approval process these days. It's just the sheer number of companies that are applying. That's what's got them quite backed up. So there is a pretty big network of B Corps now, and that network does seem to work well with each other as well. So I think there's some opportunities there in some of that bulk order side of things. Yeah, figured I'd throw that in there as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee. Great that it's creating opportunity. Another question here that's come in is, will or does ecologist track scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? And for future store locations, will this be a factor during construction and operation?
It is a factor. It is something that we do track, and yeah, it's definitely a factor when we're looking at various locations. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee.
Yeah.
Another question that's come in is regarding shipping of goods. So obviously, ecologist has a strong e-commerce footprint and does ship products out. How do you do your best to ensure carbon neutrality of that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of our business is e-commerce, so this is a great question. I think where we try to start is by reducing returns as much as possible. We have a very low return rate in relation to our industry. I think last month we were at 3%. And last time I kind of checked the industry for e-commerce orders, it was up in the it was above 10% from what I remember. So that's a big place where we start. We do offset currently our shipping. We do encourage people to not use rush shipping options. Obviously, those are going by plane as opposed to by car. So yeah, but I'm glad this question came up, because this is a big one that we're often discussing here internally, and how we can look to put physical locations as well in places where we're actually seeing quite a bit of volume for e-commerce, and thus be able to ship out of that location. Like we use our physical locations at the moment as places, basically as warehouses where we'll ship out of. So we don't have that many as of yet, but for example, our Whistler location, we ship out of there the same as we ship out of our Victoria location. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee, for diving in on that and letting us know your plans. Another question that's come through here is with the acquisition of Frankie and the growth of Ecologist business, what are you doing to grow profitability of the organization as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, we had been pretty top line focused in the last couple of years, and we've shifted that to being a lot more bottom line focused. That's part of when I was mentioning growing the existing companies in a sustainable way. That's part of what I mean in that regard. On the ecologist front, we're having some over 100% year on year growth, and we're really wanting to slow that down a bit, and happy with 20-30% year on year growth, and just really driving the bottom line as opposed to being solely focused on the top line, and simply just bringing new people to the brand in order to grow that top line. So yeah, it's been a bit of a shift in mindset there over the last little bit. And I think in relating it to the acquisition of Frankie, there are although we discuss headcount and not looking to remove any heads at the moment, but we are finding synergies in other ways there. For example, we've been able to combine our shipping volumes to negotiate some much better rates there, allow us to consolidate some orders so that we can send multiple orders together to a particular location to allow them to then go out from there. Things like that.
No, that's excellent, Renee. It's good to see that there's, just so many benefits from having a larger values aligned organization. Now that you've been so focused on growing the top line and making that acquisition, and that those are coming true. Next up here is a question regarding future acquisitions. Do you have another acquisition in the pipeline that may be announced soon, or when do you expect your next acquisition to be announced soon?
Yeah, we have. We have a handful that we're interested in. I would say that at the moment there's 3 that are a little further along. I couldn't say which will actually go to LOI stage here, but I would expect us to close on another one by the summer of next year. So summer of 2023 would be my best estimate at this time. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Renee. Next question that we have that's come in from Keith here is Ecologist exploring or expanding other complementary markets to enter over the next few years, such as shoes, lifestyle pieces, or accessories?
Yeah, definitely not shoes in the next few years. We do some accessories with both the brands. There's some bags as example made. I think that particularly on the Frankie side, sometimes when you're doing a rework, it could be hard to make another piece of clothing out of a piece of clothing. So you got to get creative and see what else you can make out of it. But yeah, I think that there's plenty of room for growth in what we're already doing, and so there's not really a need to expand beyond clothing at the moment.
Excellent. Yeah, it's good to hear your plans and that you're focused on developing your what you're strong at and going from there. Um, Next up here is that it's really neat to hear that you're working with large organizations with Frankie, such as record labels, et cetera, to upcycle clothing. Tell us a little bit more about how this happened and how do they find you and what does that collaboration look like?
Yeah, yeah. How did the record label ones come about? Yeah, so I mean, we've been working with Universal and Warner Music, namely. We had, I mean, we still work with this person that's sort of connected down in Los Angeles and had been looking to find a star talent to sort of align with the ecologist brand. Maybe think Ryan Reynolds and the deal he did with Aviation Gin. So he's really like the spokesperson for that company. So what had originally started in a search for something, a deal sort of similar to that, led us to this realization that a lot of the musicians are no longer willing to put their name on dirty merch. And so the record labels are really feeling that pressure. That realization led to some conversations with these record labels and learning just how much excess stock they have from various tours that they've done over the years. So, to give some context, Universal, within their umbrella, they have a company called Bravado, which is a $400 million a year business, which just does merch for the Universal artists, and they're stuck with a lot of product that they haven't sold. So we've been working with them on how to turn that into new pieces for them, as opposed to them sending it away to landfill. So at this moment, we're working on a Cardi B project for them. We're taking some T-shirts that didn't sell at one of her during one of her tours, and turning that into some dresses. Generally, we take the product and add value to it. So a T-shirt that perhaps was selling for $20 is getting turned into a dress that might sell for $100. So these companies that we work with, we make life really good for them, because that was about to be a hit to their P&L, and they simply need to invest a little more into it by having us rework it. And then they actually realize more value out of it than they were originally going to. We did a fun project with Billie Eilish recently, where we built some. She has a deal with Nike, so this one came through Nike, but she's unwilling to wear the new Nike product, and so we got to get a bunch of obsolete Nike inventory and rework that for her, and also put together hunted 500 vintage hoodies for her to screen print on, that were sold at Coachella when she did the show there this past year. So yeah, I mean, those are like a couple of the examples we work on. Like, part of what we understand here is that there does need to be a significant culture shift in how people are looking at clothing and how they're purchasing the products. And we know that artists are the ones that make the revolution irresistible, and hence that's a big part of why we're focused on partnering with some of these music companies and some of the artists that they have under the labels.
No, that's really, really incredible, Renee. I find it incredibly interesting that, Frankie and ecologists are so well positioned and already have the attention of these global companies and artists and brands that can really throw the message out there about what you guys are doing to change the supply chain in the industry for the better. So yeah, it's fantastic to hear your story there, and exciting things ahead for ecologist. Yeah, just so we're coming to the end of our question session. I've just got one last question for René. So if anybody has any last questions, throw them into the chat now. We'll get to them before we wrap up here. But yeah, last question from me is that we've got tons of investors on the call today. And for each individual that's joined us, why should they invest in ecologists now? And yeah, I want to make sure that we do our best part in helping you grow your business. So I have to ask.
Yeah, why now? I mean, now is as good a time as any. I feel like we're still fairly early days in what we're creating here, but we are, seeing some really great traction. We do have product market fit here. I feel like we've got the business to a place with fairly minimal investment so far, and compared to some other brands that have got a little more startup capital to begin with. So we're quite proud of that, but now we're at a place where we really want to scale up this supply chain and really be able to start offering it to other brands, so we can make a proper shift in our industry here. So yeah, for me, I guess it's just the time is now. So that's how I would answer that.
Thanks, René. Yeah, I guess there's just so many good tailwinds right now for the industry, and you're working hard at capturing more of this market. So it's an excellent time to participate in funding ecologists and becoming an investor. As they embark on new acquisitions and growing these two exciting businesses that they already have. So yeah, from my perspective, now is a great time. Further, yeah, I guess for further information on how to invest, or if you're interested in having a one-on-one call with René to discuss more details about the investment process, definitely reach out to myself and our investor relations team at investors@ecologyst.com. We'll send a follow-up email after this webinar, so you have our contact accessible to you as well. So you can also reach out via that. And yeah, we'll definitely be happy to answer any questions that you have. And René, thank you so much for the session today and for answering everything. And yeah.
Right on. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for everybody for joining.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye now.